TAG Heuer kind of occupies a really weird space in the watch collecting sphere. I've always had a soft spot for TAG. Maybe it's because I'm a 90s kid and these watches were all over in the 90s. Maybe it's because they were one of the few watch brands I could actually name growing up. I don't know what it is, but I've always had a soft spot for them. And even now, as I'm into watches, I feel myself always kind of cheering for them. And I think TAG Heuer have a really unique opportunity in the watch space to take over from the likes of Omega and Cartier and become second only to Rolex, if they play their cards right. They have this name brand power and name recognition, particularly in the Muggle world, that brands can only dream of. But I look at all this potential and everything TAG Heuer could be, and I can't help but feel like they're wasting it. This is the story of Heuer and TAG Heuer, and who TAG Heuer could be, with a sprinkle of doubt in LVMH. Let's talk Heuer.
As Prost goes into the tunnel, he is now on his way to his 6th Grand Prix victory in 2 years.
As I said in the beginning, I've always had this soft spot for TAG Heuer. I don't know why, just when I was a kid and even into my 20s, I always thought that tags were for someone who has made it. I couldn't name any models. I don't know how this idea got into my head. But to me, a TAG Heuer was for a really big milestone in life, or to signify, I don't know, that you've made it. But since becoming a watch collector and diving deeper into this space, I can't help but notice that TAG has somewhat of a divisive reputation. But let's not start this story here. Let's start it at the beginning, before they were TAG Heuer, and when they were just Heuer. To say Heuer is an important watch brand is an undersell. The history and early patents of Heuer are absolutely paramount in the sphere of horology. Most watch commentators seem to break down Heuer, or TAG Heuer's, history into 3 distinct chapters. The first one being the Heuer era, so the early heritage years, pre-quartz crisis, Edouard Heuer in the 1860s, all the way to Jack Heuer of the 1960s. Then TAG Heuer and the quartz crisis. So this is when Heuer was acquired by Technique Avant-Garde, or TAG, and they began making more quartz watches. And 3, the Jean Claud Biver era. And this is an era of newfound hope in TAG and for the future of what could be. So those are the 3 chapters most watch YouTubers name. But I dare add a 4th, because we aren't in the JCB era anymore. After his retirement in 2018, we are now in a new TAG era, the connected watch and LVMH nepotism era. And this is a chapter and a time in their history that I don't have much faith in. But let's start from the beginning. Founded in 1860 by Edouard Heuer, son of a Swiss shoemaker, he started his apprenticeship in watchmaking at age 14. Heuer Company's most groundbreaking patents include the oscillating pinion, the micrograph, the first stopwatch accurate to 1/100th of a second, and of course, the first self-winding chronograph. Because of watches like these, Heuer became synonymous with sports and motor racing, becoming the official timekeeper of the Olympic Games on 3 consecutive occasions: Antwerp in 1920, Paris in 1924, and Amsterdam in 1928. I could do an entire video dedicated to this era of Heuer, but to keep the story moving along, the 1930s and onwards represents the most beloved time of Heuer. Releasing classics like the Solanar, the Seafarer, the Otavia, the Monaco, of course, and the Carrera as well. And then we hit the 1980s. In 1985, Heuer was purchased by TAG Group, and the brand name changed to TAG Heuer. The Technique d'Avant-Garde acquisition, or the TAG acquisition, kind of made sense, as TAG were manufacturers of high-tech items like ceramic turbochargers for F1. To be honest, it's really hard to find information on this era of TAG Heuer and why Heuer ultimately sold the company. If I was to take a guess, This is a time when a lot of Swiss manufacturers were disappearing due to the rise in popularity of quartz watches. And this is a time that watch geeks cringe at, as TAG began to go down the quartz avenue more and more, with many saying these models lacked in design and quality. Although this may be true, I'm willing to hazard a guess. If you were interested in buying your first luxury watch around this time frame, you were probably looking at a TAG. And this is the beginning of the TAG era that I can remember, when TAG Heuer, to me, was that achievable luxury that communicated, you made it. And this is the third era, the 1999 LVMH acquisition. As the story goes from watch commentators, this is the era that began a newfound hope in the brand. Even with LVMH doing things like appointing Jack Heuer, who had been forced to sell the family business in 1982, as the company's honorary chairman. And of course bringing in the man, the legend, Jean Claud Biver, from 2014 to 2018. But there's a new chapter of TAG Heuer that I don't hear many people talk about. And that's the era we're in right now. And it's an era that makes me, let's say, curious as a TAG enthusiast. I think this is going to be a pivotal chapter, an era that makes or breaks the brand. But I'm worried. From what I'm seeing right now, I'm worried. Before I talk about this, I really need to expose my bias and my distaste for LVMH. You might disagree with all my thoughts and my opinions on this, and that's okay. But I feel quite suspicious about brands like LVMH and giant conglomerates buying up important watch brands, and even more concerningly to me, watch journalists and watch journalism publications. I'm not saying it's bad or wrong. I don't personally know Bernard Arnault, but it feels as untrustworthy as the Murdochs owning the Times. You know? So this fourth chapter is the connected watch and LVMH nepotism era. After Jean Claud Biver's 2018 retirement, the CEO mantle was taken up by the fourth child of Bernard Arnault, the 26-year-old Frédéric Arnault. Yeah. How do I say this? You need to be diplomatic, Brittany. You need to not get sued. Okay, let's say it like this. This is the part that starts rubbing me wrong. And this is such a classic LVMH play. This is Frédéric. He is the fourth out of 5 Arnault children to become a high-ranking person at LVMH.
Wow, you're so dominant.
Now, there's no escaping Frédéric's illustrious experience in running luxury watch brands after his 1-year internship at Facebook and 1 year of working for TAG. I really don't like this stuff. I don't like it. But this is kind of something I need to reconcile, because on the one hand, there is my severe distaste for outrageous nepotism like this. But on the other hand, this is something that's quite common within horology. The history of Heuer is even nepotism. It's from being the Heuer family-run business. From Edouard down to Jack Heuer, watchmakers learning from their predecessor on how to run the family business. Or just look at the Stern family of Patek Philippe. But I just wanted to point out the differences between these two family-owned companies. The Sterns own one brand that they pour their hearts and their souls into. They live, eat, sleep, they breathe Patek Philippe. And there's a magic and a charm in that. So perhaps it is unfair of me to feel so doubtful about Frédéric Arnault. So perhaps I'm being mean, but there's something about a 25-year-old CEO. Well, I think he's 27 now. A really young CEO who didn't create a company who's now the head of it. There's something about that kind of concerns me. When I think of Frédéric and this new era, I think of connected watches. I think Mario. I don't think of an era of TAG Heuer I am particularly excited for. And I truly believe TAG Heuer isn't living up to its full potential of what it could be. As I said at the beginning of this video, TAG Heuer has name recognition and heritage like coming out of its ears. They have the winning formula, an amazing backlog of heritage, particularly around the 1960s, which just so happens to be the most popular era of reissues right now. And guess what else, TAG? Gen Z, the little TikTokers doing the dances. Guess what era they like to dress like? The 90s. Only one of your strongest decades. They have it all right now. They have all the ingredients to make the special sauce. It just feels like they're missing the recipe. Culture is handing them this amazing opportunity to rise to the top. And they're like, should we make a Mario watch? Is this the watch everyone needs right now? Sidebar here though, sidebar, TAG, come here. I get it. I get the temptation to go down the connected watch route. We are all watching Apple become the new highest seller of watches, outselling all of the Swiss watch brands. But guys, the price point. The Apple Watch Series 8 seems to start around the £400 price point. Meanwhile, the TAG Heuer Connected starts at £1,500. This isn't gonna work. It's not gonna play out how you think it is. I think Heuer possibly has one of the biggest opportunities to become one of the highest grossing Swiss watch brands if they play their cards right. You have a winning hand. Don't waste it. Anyways, guys, these are just some of my thoughts on TAG Heuer and the big opportunity they have right now and why I hate nepotism. I don't like it. But these are my thoughts. I would love to know all of yours in those comments down below. And don't forget to do all that YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, all that juicy stuff. Until next time. Bye, guys. Also, before I sing the patron song, which I know is a freaking staple of this channel, I just had to give a big shout out to my stepdaughter, Audrey, who let me borrow that freaking fly jacket you saw in this video. Completed it, didn't it? Loved it. Thank you, Audrey. It's the patron song time. Thank you, patrons. Ooh, you're amazing. Has anyone told you today that you're amazing? But only if you're a patron. If you're not a patron, you're really great too still. No, I can't be mean. You're really great. But you're not amazing like my patrons.